Color guard, forward march. Host the colors. Audience, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
and justice.
Well, now we got your way and we're all good.
Freedom of speech!
Audience attention. Audience attention. Color guard, reform ranks.
Thank you very much to Troop 7 and the Assistant Scoutmaster Don Watson who is here. We greatly appreciate your presentation of the colors. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I want to just share a couple of comments at the beginning. First of all, thank you for being here. I do a town hall in every county every year. I work around these big counties, and it's good to be back in Medford. I think this is my 141st town hall since 2012. And we look forward to a vibrant discussion this morning. I've heard from, we've had 15,960 phone calls, emails, and messages just in We try to respond to everyone that leaves that's come by email or leaves an address or phone number. We've responded to 14,771 of those so far. Some require more research. We try to get back to everybody. You know, the 3 big district stretches from here to Ontario. We've had about 71,000 messages overall, 68,000 which we responded to. So it's a work in progress, and that's a bit of an update. Helped 542 people with issues that are affected by federal agencies, including 171 of our veterans and our military. I'd like you to join me in thanking our veterans interactive today. And with that, I'm here to listen to you, and I appreciate you being here. I'd much rather have people talk to me about things they're deeply concerned about and believe in than have people sit at home and not participate. So I appreciate that. I'm here to listen. And who has the first? Well, I'll just tell you, we've got people with microphones. To the extent you can come to the centers, that will make it easier. Nick's right here, and Nick, you find somebody there, and we'll work back and forth. Yeah, we'll get around. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Murray Rayfield. I am the community supervisor. I hope that anybody who disagrees with things that we say this morning shows the gentility to stand up, cite their name and say without screaming and yelling. I take exception to people doing that.
What do you say?
I have 2 comments. One, I call it shadow government. It seems to me that I think by now most of the people who are Obama fans, and they were entitled to do that, have the ability to say things because they're still involved in our government. I think they ought to be put out the pasture.
I think you ought to get put out the pasture. That's okay. What the hell is this?
Christians.
Well, you sure told us.
Most of us remember when Nancy Pelosi stood up and said, "Oh gosh, we better pass that thing and then read it." Typical way to run government, but that's the way it goes. I'm sure. I'm sure that
pen?
Oh, shut up.
Oh, it's got on the Indivisible Facebook site. Indivisible.
Let's respect each other and let him finish. I will let people who are speaking and asking questions have their opportunity. I want to be able to wait to hear it. I'm sure that when that was said, the Republican Party said, well, let's kind of start putting something together in the case. They've had 8 years to put together a decent plan, and they waited. You may actually like what he has to say at the end. So, hold on.
Go to the
I'm sure that it was a mistake
or
for the
YouTube
last
Facebook
couple of weeks
page.
to put together a plan. They could have started 8 years ago, put together a decent plan that would work, and then presented it to their comrades in some semblance of order, instead of all at the last minute throwing it out. I don't think that's a good move.
I want to let him finish.
That's discussion.
I've been a registered Republican
There's two of
for
them.
most of my life. I'm 83 years old, so I've been in the Republican a long time. My biggest complaint about our party
Indivisible or
is we come up with some grand ideas and then don't follow through on them. That bothers me. Because we have smart people, but we just don't take advantage of their smarts. And I think that's kind of silly. You remember the old adage about actions speak louder than words. I think what we should have done is taken our expertise and our insight and our ideas and put them together.
Organ
As far as the ACA, that could have been started 8 years ago, wasn't it? Thank you.
Thank you. So, first of all, thank you again for your service and for your comments, your criticisms, your suggestions. I appreciate them all. Actually, there's been a lot of work done on health care. It's more than just Obamacare or
This sucks, man. They got people standing by it.
It's also about the work we've done in a bipartisan way. And asked with President Obama's which invests in expedited processes to get new medicines to market. It invests in the National Institutes of Health. This all passed at the end of last year. We rewrote in a bipartisan way America's mental health laws for the first time in the history of our country. And we're trying to get those mental health services into our communities. We work closely with our communities on that. Yes, we need to do more on saving the market. As the Obamacare exchanges, they're collapsing before our eyes.
Liar!
You hold it. Yeah, she'll hold it. These can be a little tricky, so go ahead, sir.
I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to that.
So closer to his mouth for a second.
Hello, my name is William Manning. I've been a Republican since before I can remember. I have one question and one comment. I would like the Congress to hold the executive accountable. And as we refine health care for Americans, I would like a health care plan that is applicable to all Americans, including Congress.
Thank you for your comments. Absolutely agree in terms of putting members of Congress in the same health plan that the people on the exchange was with. By the way, we are. And I voted for it. Because I think that's not true. And second, it is not free health care for life. I'd be happy to share it with you because there's a lot of false out information out there. So, my wife and I, by law, are in the DC HealthLink Exchange. That's the Obamacare Exchange in Washington, D.C. That's what the law said we had to go into. It is a Blue Cross Care First PPO plan. We pay $799.82 a month, and our deductible is between $2,000 and $4,000. You can have that one in the exchange. exchange. What I want is exchanges that work for everybody. And right now, last year there were 225 counties in America where people only had one option. This year, there are 1,022, and that was before Humana pulled out of the market, and others are saying they're not going to participate. That's before any change has been made to the Affordable Health Care Act. So we're trying to reform this market so we will have choices, and we need to get the cost drivers of healthcare overall. So whether you're in this small sliver that is in the exchange or not, if you're a small business, if you're somewhere else getting their insurance, which is where most Americans get it, is through their employer or Medicare, we're driving down those costs. And so we're going to do that as well. How many people want a government-run single-payer system?
I live in Medford, and I'm a member of Indivisible. We have over 4,000 voters in your district who are dedicated to resisting the Trump agenda and holding you, Mr. Walden, accountable for your actions and your votes. To everyone who identifies with Indivisible, please stand up. Representative Walden, I'm particularly concerned about the issue of potential interference by Russia with our election, and now in the news yesterday, we're hearing there's a possibility of collusion with the Trump campaign. Will you, Mr. Walden, co-sponsor H.R. 356, the Protect Our Democracy Act, which would create an independent commission to investigate this whole friggin' mess?
Involving themselves in our elections, period, especially not Russia. Second, even Democrats in Congress, in the Intelligence Committee in the Senate, have joined with Republicans to investigate this, as they should in the Senate Intelligence Committee Environment. And Adam Schiff, the leading Democrat in the Senate or the House Intelligence Committee, joined with Mike Conaway now in the investigation in the House and the Senate. I think that's the best place to start, as we've done before. Because they can access things at the highest classified level. Whoever was involved, we should follow the trail and hold them accountable. That's what I commit to, and that's what I support. I'm not prepared to support the legislation yet.
Hi, my name is...
No, not at this point. I do not support the bill.
My name is Brad Studebaker. I'm an RN with an MBA. I've worked in healthcare for over 10 years on the business side. First of all, thank you so much for coming out early morning on Saturday, and your graciousness. Your graciousness in the face of such disrespect. Folks who respectfully disagree, don't be children and yell and stomp. Let the man speak. Okay, to my question.
Instead, treat us like children.
Being evaluated, and it's ironically named, had nothing to do with affordability. Healthcare was too expensive to start with. The solution coming out of Washington was to add layers of federal bureaucracy by some counts 160 agencies. So for those of us who can add,
160 federal agencies, cost is not going to go down. It was laughable and fraudulent from the start. What do you advocate to drive down the prices in order for it to be affordable?
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for what you're doing to our end. Okay, let me finish. So when it comes to cost drivers, I think we have to start at one end and go all the way through. And that's what the cost of our medicines are. Is that market competitive or not? What are the costs in our hospitals? What are the costs all the way through the system between the patient and whoever's paying the bill, which is the patient in the end? And our committee that I chair is launching investigations into these issues, into programs that drive up costs in hospitals, into payment systems that if you get treated in one location, there's a certain price. If you go to another, it's much higher, and the taxpayer or you as the patient is on the hook for that. So we're looking at every piece of this, and then we're also looking at how do we create a more competitive generics market. Congressman Kurt Schrader, Democrat from up the highway here in the Wilsonville area, and Congressman Bill Aracus from Florida, a bipartisan bill that I've had our committee go ahead and have a hearing on, and we intend to move it forward to get at the issues like we've all experienced with medical devices like EpiPen. You all are familiar with that. My wife used to get an EpiPen. She's a little allergic to bee stings. Her doctor said when they went up to hundreds of dollars, you're probably okay with Benadryl. Not everybody has that option, though. And we should have competition, because once there was somebody else in the market, guess what? They had to respond to market forces. So their bill will allow competing proposed devices to be able to get into the market sooner, so you get competition. So we're looking at all of those issues along the way. And we've got to drive down the cost of health care. And we've got to empower consumers to have a more patient-driven system, not a Washington bureaucrat-driven system. Next.
My name is Mary Ann Evans. I'm a small business owner.
Can you hold that a little closer?
Okay.
There you go.
I've been a Democrat since 1956, when I first saw, as an 8-year-old, watch the convention. I get a little unfrustrated by the politicians who talk about representing the American people, because I don't think there is one person who can speak for the American people, particularly when that person represents actually a minority of people who voted. And that, I'm afraid, is the case of your party. In Congress and in the White House, we represent a minority, which is only part of my point. The frustration I have is with things like the Hastert rule, and with the process that you all have been following, and I'm afraid you've taken the charge on it with the discussion on the Affordable Care Act. You've gone into back rooms, talked to only each other, and said, this is the bill, and it's considered a win if you pass the bill instead of taking the time to really listen to us. You just made some very good suggestions on the things that need to be done in terms of prescription costs and all those things. But I really do feel, and I think maybe people in this room feel, that instead of trying to trash the program that we have, take a look at it, listen to people, try to figure out what we can do to solve the problem, the work system that we have is big enough that it is like that. So, this is the process, and that's, Dennis Hastert was responsible for more than one perversion that happened.
Hear, hear.
And talk to people that allow votes on the floor of everyone.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I appreciate what you said. A couple of things.
Thank you.
There's a lot of work in healthcare. I've worked on it from the time I was in the state legislature. In fact, I came to there, I created a select committee to help implement the original Oregon Health Plan, which led to the 1115 waivers that we have today. I fought for reforms on insurance. I represented 3 small counties that the insurers weren't going to reimburse the physician assistants because they were saying you have to go to a doctor first. There was no doctor or hospital in Wheeler, Sherman, or Gillette County. We changed the law. I helped create some of the initial high-risk pools in Oregon that people had pre-existing conditions couldn't get health health insurance. So when you talk about preserving some of the good things, I lost where you went, to Obamacare, I'm fully in support of making sure we never go back to the days where when people had pre-existing conditions, they got denied access to affordable health insurance. I feel the same way when it comes to the old days where you had lifetime caps on what their insurance would cover, and then, by the way, if you got a bad situation, you blew through the cap and you're on your own. That was wrong then, it's wrong then, it's taken away now, we will not go back to those days. Now they support, keeping your kids on your insurance till they're 26. Now, we can help you get them out of the basement maybe, but if they're 26, but, those were things that made sense. Frankly, the exchanges where people had competitive choices made sense. We're not doing away with the exchanges, we're trying to make them work. Because no matter who is going to be in charge, they're in the same place. We're trying to, we've reached out to every governor in the country. We've reached out to all the insurance commissioners, including in Oregon, who sent us ideas about how to make this market work. We've worked with state legislators. I've met with the governor. I mean, there's a lot we're doing. And in this bill, Oregon would get the next 2 years some $320 million without any changes in the support system. This is additional. And Oregon right now has an $882 million shortfall on Medicaid. Our state is fourth from the bottom in its general fund support of Medicaid. We're right above Arkansas, Kentucky, and New Mexico. And we have an $882 million deficit. So our patient state stability fund that's in this bill would give Oregon $320 million over the next 2 years to help fill that hole. And the bill itself would bring down premiums by 10% over time. But it's just part of what we're trying to do to reform the system. There's a lot more, and I'm happy to get into it later, but I know you all have questions, so let's keep going.
Skillful back.
The bill that we worked on in the House, we're not done with it.
Wow, that was ballsy. Stupid ballsy.
Go ahead.
Thank you for being here. My name is Deborah Kutnick. I'm a physician in Ashland. I'm also a member of Indivisible. I would say that I'm up here, but I'm not. I'm going to bring up a new topic that also is important in public health. Gun violence is a huge public health issue. The total number of Americans killed by terrorism in the decades, about 300. The number of Americans killed by gun violence is over 300,000 in that same time period. And yet you made a statement that you were in support of Donald Trump's ban on immigration because you were, quote, keeping Americans safe. With that kind of a difference in death from gun violence, what are you doing to keep Americans safe with gun safety?
And I've supported funding that to make sure the background check system works. It's also important for states to be able to enter their data in, and a lot of them lag. So that's important. But I do support the Second Amendment. I think that's a guaranteed right in the Constitution. I'll continue to do that. And I think people should have due process when it comes to their gun rights. So the issue you're probably referring to is the one that we overturned recently, where the Social Security Department had a regulation that said if you ask somebody to help you with your finances, you automatically are deemed to be mentally insufficient and turned into the gun registry so that you can't get it. And the ACLU agreed with us and said that's right, there is not due process there in that rule. It's all a matter of fact and record, and that's why it was overturned. So who's up next? Marissa, you want to pick somebody? Great. Go ahead. There we go. Hey, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. Glad to see you could make it down here.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask a few questions about the infrastructure bill.
Sure.
That's proposed. I know this is a bipartisan thing, that there's people from both sides of the party is looking at, and it is something that we need to get going. God knows that this southern part of Oregon, and Oregon in general, really need this bill. I guess the Scottsburg Bridge is right now out of commission. Anyway, how do we propose to get everybody working on this, get on the same page? They don't seem to be that far apart. They just need to hammer the details out. And also, what are your views on native speaking?
Sure, I've supported it. We'll continue to. In terms of the infrastructure bill, there's a lot of work going on today. In our committee, I've had at least 3 hearings. One on both safety, security, and adequacy of the electrical grid, because we have to make sure we can get power where we need it, when we need it, and that it's secure from cyber attack and other damage. By the way, that helps us move renewable power around. City Corps is investing $2 billion to take excess renewable out of California, move it into our system, which means they won't need to use their coal-fired and other fire generation as much. So making sure we can site that, get that installed in a timely manner makes a difference. Second, so you have the electrical grid issue. This is just the jurisdiction of the Energy and Commerce Committee. Then we have broadband build-out to make sure we can connect Americans wherever you live to high-speed, efficient broadband. That takes both the laying of fiber, it takes making spectrum available, which I've been the lead author on legislation to do that successfully. And then you have pipeline safety, security, and siting. And we need to be able to make sure we can get pipes in the ground in a timely manner, respecting individual property rights along the way, but we can make sure they're safe when they're there, and that we have the ability to get it done. So our committee has held hearings on all of those things. We've asked states to be involved. We've asked different groups like yours to be involved, to say, what can we do to make it more efficient so the money we do have from the taxpayers actually goes into the infrastructure. And finally, on highways and bridges, I supported the transportation bill a couple of years ago. First time in probably a decade, Congress funded a 5-year transportation bill. That's underway right now, so the state has predictability and the funding to do highway projects and all. That's all in effect a block grant that comes out to states. And then the local communities through, for example, the Oregon Department of Transportation has a multi-year planning process that starts here in the local communities and works up, evaluating which projects make the most sense going forward. They then can access that federal money that's come in, so we don't earmark it anymore. It comes to the state, that's where it belongs, and communities make the decisions. So all that's coming forward.
We have a question up here.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Cora Kirchhoff. I live in Ashland. I heard on radio just a couple of weeks ago that you are actually against eminent domain. Is that correct?
No.
Okay, cool. I'm really glad to hear that because we have an eminent domain problem here with the LNG pipeline. And I want to know how many people here are against the LNG pipeline? Raise your hand. I want you to really pay attention to what you just saw, Mr. Walden, because Oregon is at risk of that pipeline. We have the most pristine waters in the whole country in this state. What will you do to help us fight that pipeline since it's going to use eminent domain? And that is not for public good, it's for corporate gain. And by the way, we don't even have a democracy anymore. Did you know that? Princeton study 2014 that we no longer fit the criteria of democracy because of the power of corporations in our government.
Understanding of it is can only be used in terms of the public good. That's why there is a public process involved through the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and that process is underway right now for public comment. The issue is before FERC. People have an opportunity to weigh in, and I know many people have. I would say, however, that our job is to make sure if pipelines are sited, that they're sited effectively and that they are safe. They are safe. That is our job. Also aware that we have seen carbon reductions of 12% below 2005 levels, in part as a result of accessing natural gas and displacing coal. And so I think that makes sense to do. That requires pipelines and it requires facilities.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Sage.
Yeah, Jessica!
And I'm with Oregon District 2 Indivisible. Thank you, Congressman. I want to talk about your alliance with President Trump. Trump increasingly shows erratic, unstable, and unpredictable behavior. His poor judgment and ineptitude as president is more evident with each passing day. I'm extremely concerned, Congressman Walden, about your support of his actions. In particular, withholding his tax returns, his questionable ties with Russia pertaining to the election, his missile attack in Syria without congressional knowledge and approval are very overwhelming and alarming. Congressman Walden.
Yes, sir.
I have two related questions. Would you support a presidential tax transparency act making it illegal for a president to withhold his or her taxes? I have two questions. Would you like me to? My second question is, will you call on Trump to obtain authorization from Congress for the use of military force before he strikes again?
Answer her question, man. Don't dodge, answer the question.
Reporters aren't supposed to comment.
I'm not a reporter. And reporters aren't supposed to be involved, so what are you blaming me for?
Oh, wait a minute. You got it? Okay. Hold on just a second. Go ahead.
All right, come back. Good morning. My name is Lori Kurtz, and I'm a citizen in your district, and I am a member of the human race. Greg, as you know, we live here in God's country.
Yes, we do.
So,
Actually, we live in America.
I get a quivery voice when I talk about deep values. You don't have to be frightened. I won't actually cry. But I do feel deep
I want to talk about the environment. I want to talk about our farmers and our agricultural communities. I want to talk about our fisheries industries. I want to talk about our tourism. People come here, spend lots of money, and then they leave, leaving it to us, which is, sorry, great.
Indeed.
It's an environmentally based money maker and spiritual place to be. What are you going to do to protect the EPA fully funded?
So if you can elaborate on that. I would also terms of working with my colleagues across the aisle, the Lugar Center for Bipartisan Analysis looks at all of us in the Congress and evaluates us independently about how bipartisan we are. I come up at number 47 in the House as 47 most bipartisan in the work that I do, and that's their independent evaluation. I've tried to take sort of the Oregon way to Washington. Is why when I sat down with Earl Boone and Hour, we backpacked around Mount Hood for 3 days and 4 nights before we ever wrote the legislation that eventually became the wilderness bill for Mount Hood. We did it together. The same thing with Congressman de Blasio on some of the work we've done. And I talked earlier about the work Congressman Schrader's doing on getting more medical devices in sooner. This is how you should govern. This is how you should legislate. It's the only way you're going to be successful in the end. I believe in it fully. You don't have to sacrifice your principles to be there, but there's a lot of room in between to get good policy done. It's always been my commitment, and I'll continue. Thank you for being here. Join us. Let's go back over to this side, right up here. Good morning.
Thank you very much for being here. My name is Roy. I'm a student teacher from the beautiful Applegate Valley.
Oh, it is beautiful.
My question regarding President Trump, not so much as to his mental status or et cetera, but since the moment he was sworn in and took his hand off the Bible, he has been in violation of the United States Constitution of 1789 regarding the Emoluments Clause. Now, the Emoluments Clause was put into the Constitution to prevent conflicts of interest with foreign powers. And every single business morning, the Bank of China opens its office in Trump Tower in downtown Manhattan. And every single morning, foreign officers wake up in hotel rooms owned by Donald Trump. And every single week, invoices are sent from Trump property to the General Accounting Office for the federal government, where our taxpayer money is paying Donald Trump, his company, his family, from receipts from foreign governmental officers. Now, as head of the Energy and Commerce Committee, what is your plan to address Donald Trump's minute-by-minute obvious violations of the United States Constitution?
First of all, the Energy and Commerce Committee does not have jurisdiction over the issues you raised. I'm not sure there's a committee in the House that does. So as to your question, when you ask us the minute-by-minute plan for the Energy and Commerce Committee to address the issue, you address it in the wrong committee. The Judiciary Committee might have jurisdiction over that. The Department of Justice certainly have jurisdiction over that. Or the U.S. Attorney.
I fear there is truth in the words of our not she says, once weapons were manufactured to fight wars, now wars are manufactured to sell weapons. Work to use our national resources to restore our environment through supporting clean energy and opposing the LNG pipeline. Use our resources to fund a single-payer healthcare plan. Build a secure nation from the inside out by having healthy, safe people who feel comfortable in their homes, who have food for their children, who are safe. That's where our safety lies, inside our country. Not fighting wars, not killing people around the world. That is creating more violence. We need more peace. And finally, and more specifically, I'd like to know if you, as chair of the Energy and Commerce Committee, will hold public hearings on whether Monsanto improperly influenced the EPA employees to suppress science that links their Roundup weed killer to cancer. Breast cancer, and knowing there are deep concerns about the link with Roundup, I ask every one of you, please do not use Roundup.
It is essential that when agencies make decisions, the decisions that they make are based on science that you all can see. It should be transparent. It should be reproducible, if you will. Think of it in terms of a peer review like we do in medical journals or anywhere else. We will make better decisions if they're based on fact and science. So yes, we're going to find it. If somebody's related to science, we'll find out about it. Or we'll do our best to find out about it. Because that's not good for consumers, and it's not good for the country, and we will dig into this. In terms of the military, we live in a very dangerous world. I support the military. I will continue to support our military uniform. After the defense budget goes for pay and for benefits, we don't do enough to make sure our military are put in harm's way, have what they need, including the training that they need to keep themselves safe and secure as they protect our rights to have meetings like this in this country. There we go. All right, we'll go over to this side. She gets the mic for it. Nick, you have something? We got one out there. Go ahead.
I believe the gentleman behind you had a follow-up question, but I'd just like to ask a short question. You mentioned proudly that there was an independent evaluation of your bipartisanship. I'd like an independent evaluation of Trump and Russia.
First and see what they find out. I want the facts contained to wherever they lead, and then people can be held accountable if they put American interests second, not first. I don't want any country involved in our elections fucking with it. So, okay.
Hello, thank you for being here this morning. My name is Gabriel Blue. I was supposed to be here this morning with my friend, but we learned you were not able to get an American Sign Language translator. Access is a very important matter to government. I was also in Salem a couple of weeks back, and I didn't see a translator for the
That's a good point. I'm sorry for that.
Will you please make translators available for all of your future
example, Fossil and Mitchell, we may have 20 people, and we've not run into that as an issue, but I respect that, and we will work on that to get better at it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, does that work?
Good morning. My name is Linda Gus. I'm the president and a member of Indivisible. This administration has proposed massive budget cuts to programs that serve seniors and children and other vulnerable people. I'd like your position on at least 3 budget items that could save a lot of money and restore those services. Do you support a budget that includes $10 billion for a wall between U.S. and Mexico? And even Republicans from Texas say that it's unnecessary, not feasible, and a waste of money. Will you support some measures to reduce the costs of funding Trump and his family to travel worldwide and spend most weekends at his property for free advertising? He spent $20 million in 80 days, on pace to spend billions more than Obama, we complain about. And finally, why would you support a health care bill that increased tax deductions for health insurance companies to pay their CEOs millions of dollars? The top 10 health insurance companies paid 57 CEOs $300 million. Some of them $14 and $15 million a year. And the Health Care Insurance Act you supported gave those companies the opportunity to deduct much of that salary.
Okay, so 3 things. Let me start with the wall, because that was your first question, was the wall. So in 2006, Congress, in a bipartisan effort, voted to approve additional security measures on the southern border, which included construction of a wall, including construction of fencing or other security measures. I voted for that, so did Peter DeMazio, so did Ron White, so did Gordon Smith, and so did Darlene Dooley. That has produced 700 miles of border security along there, including a wall. I've always said a wall from one side to the other doesn't make sense because there are areas where a wall wouldn't work. What I'm after is to make sure our border is secure, because I believe that a country doesn't have security over its borders, doesn't have security over its country. And we are open to immigration. We are a country that has always embraced legal immigration. We should continue to do that, but in the context of having security to our borders, then it will work. Then it will work. I've seen no proposal that says $10 billion. I know that in the past administration and the administration before that, and going clear back to Bill Clinton, every president of every party has said we need to do more to secure our border. We need to do more to enforce our laws. And I've supported more border agents, and I've supported more border security, and I will continue to do that. I'm trying to think, what was your second question? Okay, yes. I do think, yeah, okay, I was trying to.
I will remind you, don't worry.
Okay, I'm just trying to get the questions. So, I got that. So, the second question in terms of the cost of protecting presidents and their families. That was your question about wherever they go, that's the money you're talking about being spent to go to Florida or back or wherever. The current law says that presidents, we will protect them and key family members. that, they have to pick up, there's a capped amount, I don't remember the exact amount, for any other residents. They're in charge of picking up any construction costs, because when you have the whole Secret Service contingent and all, they have to be on site. So they get, as President Obama picked a house in Chicago, President Trump's got his Mar-a-Lago, there are other presidents who have their banks. So that is limited. But we are seeing higher costs than we've ever seen before. My hunch is we'll have a discussion about that. Oh, CEOs, yeah. So when Obamacare passed, they singled out CEOs of insurance companies and basically added extra tax just on their salaries. They capped it at there was an effort to completely repeal that. I actually supported breaking that in a little bit so that we collected more revenue initially, but I do think as a country we should have a broader discussion, A, about overall tax policy, and B, about singling out just certain people for different tax treatment. I'm not sure that's a fair way.
You like 1%?
I think people should be treated the same, not picked out by what job you happen to have, and then somebody in Congress says we're going to go after them. All right. Okay.
Hello, my name is Jeannie Schwar.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to your staff. A lot of us have gone to your Medford office.
Thank you.
We haven't usually agreed with your actions, but your staff has been really courteous. Let's move on. In the Willamette Week, there was an article, and I quote, "Federal filings show that powerful corporate interests have long recognized the value of investing in Walden, who for the past 2 cycles has served as chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee." So early this morning, I looked up your contributors on Open Secrets, and everyone's invited to look at that.
It's all there.
It's all there. Number 1, National Association of Broadcasters.
I'm a radio broadcaster.
And great voice. Comcast Corporation, Alphabet, which is Google, CGI, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Nike. There's a long list of corporate donors and corporations that fund political action committees. You have an opponent in the midterm elections coming up in 2018. His name is Jim Prairie. But this time around, he has said on Facebook, "I am running this campaign as a clean candidate, which means I will not take money from corporations or PACs." Will you make that same pledge so that we, your constituents, know that you support us and not corporations? Would you be willing to give that back, start fresh with a grassroots campaign by us? Thank you.
Thank you. So I appreciate that. And by the way, I actually filed all that with the Federal Elections Commission. I don't believe my opponent last time ever filed a disclosure with the Federal Elections Commission.
He funded himself at $6,000.
So at $5,000, federal law requires even that kind of funding to be filed. So since 1917, corporations have been prohibited by federal law from contributing to federal candidate campaigns. So we don't take corporate contributions to federal campaigns. You also left out a lot of other groups that are supported, like farmers and ranchers, and some of these guys up here right, I say thank you and move on. And so that's how I operate, and that's how I'll continue to do. I appreciate the support. I say thank you for your support. And we'll agree on some things, and we'll disagree on some things, right? So,
Great.
go ahead.
Hi, I'm Mike Steele, also Indivisible.
Thank you for being here.
And I'm also an RN and concerned about health care.
All right.
The U.S. spends more on health care than any other nation, but Americans are less healthy than people in countries that spend far less and cover everyone. Of 11 developed nations followed by the Commonwealth Fund, our health outcomes rank last. By no coincidence, this is also the only industrialized nation that fails to provide coverage to all its citizens. President Trump said he would replace the ACA with something better and cheaper that covers everyone. Instead, the plan you supported would deprive millions of their coverage. What do you have against universal health care?
So thank you for your question. There's a lot of work to be done on health care to make it more affordable. Clearly, we've had that discussion today about how do you actually get the cost down. That's a key part of this. The second is then how do you expand that access to care? I happen to believe in markets that work that allow you to have more choices. It's worked in Medicare Part D. If you're a senior citizen on Medicare Part D, you have lots of choices in terms of what you have lots of choices. I helped write that law. I think it works well. That's the kind of exchange that's vibrant. Costs are down 52% over what they were proposed to be. That's what CBO scored it. When we passed it, it's 52% less costly to taxpayers and to Medicare than what they thought it would be. And it's got about an 85% satisfaction record among those who use it. So there's lots of ways to improve health care and expand access. This particular bill is very limited in what we can do to accomplish these other goals. There are more bills coming that will address expanding and lowering costs. We're prohibited by set rules of the way to do everything we want to do in this particular bill.
I'm Ron New York. I farm out in Eagle Point area, and I have a question for you. And on the proposed budget that the President presented, there's a 21% decrease in the ag budget. And the thing that we're really concerned about is the crop insurance section. We don't want to see the crop insurance program phased out, and we would like to see it broadened into specialty crops, as was done last time, so that we will benefit here more than the major crops in the Midwest.
Okay. I share your concern on that. As you know, the so-called skinny budget that's put out has some pretty dramatic reductions in it in domestic spending. And some of them are well thought out, in my opinion. And so, clearly, when it comes to the Department of Agriculture and crop insurance, that's a very important tool, not only here in the Roden Valley, but all across our district, where you have skin in the game, and taxpayers do as well, to try to make sure that we have an local agriculture community that can thrive so we can grow our own food, produce our own products, sell them locally, sell them internationally, wherever you market, however you market. We need a vibrant agricultural sector. I'll continue to fight for that and the crop insurance you referenced. Well, we've got time for just a couple more questions. I know we've gone beyond what we said, but I want to get to a couple more before we go on to the next town hall.
I'm grateful you're here today.
Thank you.
My son is serving in the U.S. Army right now.
Thank you for your service.
He was coming home escorting our president from Korea. I promised I wouldn't cry.
It's all right.
He asked me to ask you this because he wants to be heard. He's right was antiquated. His ability to serve and cover himself was cut short. He had to escort the information that was coming. He's an intel person. I can't tell you what he does, I'm not allowed to. But he was coming home and he told me, Mom, tell him that our rifles are antiquated. They are not adequate to serve like we're supposed to serve. What can you do about that? I hear what that woman said over there, but I'd like to know if monies are being spent to protect our best and to protect the men who
This is why there really, I would say, there are three things that need to happen. We need to reform the broken procurement system at the Pentagon. We delay access to the latest technologies and all. And I've met with local manufacturers here in Bend that have great programs and process improvements, and it takes them forever to bust through this, I don't know what to call it, cabal, if you will, of the procurement process. There's too much stuff going on there. So Mac Thornberry, chairs the Armed Services Committee, has made this a mission of the House Armed Services Committee is to fix the broken procurement process so that our men and women in uniform out there on the tip of the spear have what they need and in a timely manner. So that's one. Two, every agency has its share of waste, including the Pentagon, by the way, where they've identified a lot. Medicaid itself, we talk about Medicaid. Last year alone, according to the Inspector General and the GAO, there was $36.3 billion in improper payments made by Medicaid. We're trying to figure out how does that happen, how do we stop that, because that money should be going to people who actually need health care, not improper payments. So we need to do that at the Pentagon, but at the end of the day, we have to fully fund what our men and women in uniform need when they're sent on their missions and make sure they have the training and the equipment to keep themselves safe and secure. Thank your son for his service. All right, we've got time for one more. And we do have forms that you can fill out with other questions or go on the website, and we'll get back to you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Congressman. I'm Steve Rickey from Ashland, and thank you for coming down. I'm part of the 72% who voted for you, so please keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Another question. Oregon has enormous potential to grow as a leader in biomass-based energy.
Yes.
Thanks to companies like Pacific Ethanol in Eastern Oregon and a very strong agricultural sector. Not to mention the potential for the forestry sector to become a leader in advanced biofuels. Will you support keeping the federal renewable fuel standard the same so that it doesn't limit the future market for Oregon biomass?
Yeah, so as you know, all this defaults to the EPA in 2022. There's a lot of discussion about what the right blend, what the mix should be, how ethanol should be a part of that, whether it's corn-based or whether it's advanced fuels like you're talking about, cellulosic. We've invested a lot of research on cellulosic. It's beginning to show promise and breakthroughs. Not only should we be using biomass for that, but also we should be using it for generation of electricity. It is renewable. It helps fund the cleanup of our forests. It produces renewable energy with very little emission, and so I support that. We will be working on the proper ratios on ethanol. It is important for octane in fuel because you need to increase octane, which gives you better mileage, which deals with our CAFE standards. So that effort is going on. We're doing a big review of the renewable energy, or the fuel standard right now. And I think ethanol will continue always to play a role. The question is how big, as you know, and we in the margins. But we're working with both the ethanol producers and others to come to the right agreement on it. So that's a work in progress, is what I would tell you. So thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here as well. I appreciate your input, and your participation makes our democracy better.
Well, that looks like it.
Are you using Facebook Live or Periscope?
Facebook Live.
Facebook, cool.